Alright, so my new revised workflow is I'm supposed to unmute the mic at least 2 minutes ahead. Which means I'm just kind of pinned in place and I don't want to make embarrassing noises now. But let's hope it improves the odds. Oh, see, now here we go. I didn't put the headset on yet. All right, good. Uh-oh. Great. Well, let's, Perfect. So I made one change, which of course caused me to forget the other steps, and now we are into the last minute, so maybe we're not going to have monitor audio. All right, it is what it is. Also rearranged my desk a little bit. I'm sure it's going to cause me screw-ups as well, but this is success. Okay. Hey folks, don't do politics here, but we dance the Harris Waltz. It's T2sday. It's another update in the T2 tile project. This, once again, is my modified, what I'm going to use for a title card, and it worked pretty well once I added the magic ingredient. So we'll see. It seems to me that YouTube is so gigantic that even if I have very similar title cards, that I'm getting so few impressions that I probably get a whole bunch of different people, right? Maybe. All right, so let's get into it. We're going to start, as we often do today, with catching up on BV. After a job was done, BV would just knock around the grid thinking about stuff and making sure everything was still shipshape. Sometimes another run started quickly, but sometimes there was a lot of time to waste, and BV got to wondering what happened between runs, and that led to thoughts about where BV even came from to begin with. So BV asked Seneca, the summer intern, "Where do I come from? How was I made?" And Seneca said, "Well, BV, you're very lucky because we know exactly what you're made of. Your beautiful body is a box, and your wheels are cylinders, and..." No, that's not what I meant," interrupted BV. "I mean, where do I come from? Not my body, my me. Like, what's happening before I fall onto the grid? Where am I then?" asked BV. And Seneca said, "Oh, you're talking about your brain, not your body. Well, I can show you an example. You could never see this happening live, but this is your brain assembling itself. We start by introducing a single tiny atom, a BV brain seed, into a whole wall of computers. And that seed is like a tiny brain sponge that puffs up to full size?" asked BV. "Oh, no," said Seneca. "There won't be anything really like your brain for a long time yet. First, the seed spreads out to measure the computer grid where it was planted, to find the best place for your brain to develop." "Ooh," said BV. "Smart." When that's done, all the measurement scaffolding is torn down, leaving just the central core where your brain and body will connect together. "Cool," said BV. And then, once it's ready, in the center of that core hot box, your brain develops quickly, blooming like a flower. "Just like your brain?" asked BV. Oh, your brain develops much faster than mine did, said Seneca. All right, said Beavy. And once the hotbox is configured and signals start flowing between your brain and your body, well, you know the rest, said Seneca. That's when I'm me, said Beavy. Right, said Seneca. Hey, wait a minute, said Beavy. What's this little yellow box here? It looks like a me. What is that? That's what I was going to tell you, said Seneca. You've got some new hardware in your body. But I don't feel any new hardware in my body, said Beavy. Well, that's because it's not all hooked up yet, said Seneca. Well, hook me up, said Beavy. It's not that simple, said Seneca. There's no more room in the hotbox, so the engineers have to start working around it. But so far, there's no way to connect those higher brain functions into the core. What good is hardware if I can't use it? Asked Beavy. Soon, Beavy, soon, said Seneca. Okay, so we'll hear a little more from Beavy and a little more in that same demo in a couple of minutes. The goals for today were to get this essay that Lou Wilson and I have been working on, revisions submitted, and we have done that. The main goal for Beavy was to recall a sequence, make a series of steps, do something that wasn't just reacting to the outside world. And we failed big time on that. But, once again, did a ton of work that I think needs to be done. So, okay. And have big fun. Once again, did okay. So I want to talk a little bit about community stuff. I usually leave it to the end, but I want to talk about it first so that I don't miss it. And then talk about mind expansion. That's going to be the title of this update, I think. And that's it. So just very simple. So as I mentioned, Lou and I have been working on this essay, Dialogues on Natural Code. And last month, we had gotten the news that it was conditionally accepted, that one of the reviewers didn't really like it very much and we needed to make some changes. So we made a bunch of changes. And it was a little bit difficult to kind of break into it because it's a conversation, and so it's, even though we had edited the conversation, it sort of once it had gone out in the world, it kind of felt like it was set in stone. But eventually, we figured out, well, we could add more conversation rather than necessarily changing all the other conversation. And we rearranged things. It got 2 pages bigger, which is legal according to the rules of this particular workshop. But I think overall it's much better, and I think, not to jinx it, we'll find out in 2 days, I believe, whether it's finally accepted. I think our odds are good. So, community. Again, I used to say education and outreach, but now it's like, no, that's not what it's about. It's about trying to find interested folks, trying to find new perspectives, trying to find stuff that fits together, complementary ways, and so forth, like the paper that Lou and I are doing, for example. And, so I've got all these different things going on, right? We've got the T2 Tile project. That's what we're doing here. We've got the Hyperspace Academy, which has been over on the Dave Ackley channel for 10 years. That is contributing the idea of the self-image. And we've got the Living Computation Foundation, which is an actual official existing tax, nonprofit, tax exempt. You can donate $5 and get your own nerd number. Do it now. And so forth. And, in my head, these all connect in my head, because, I've only got one head and I'm a big unifier, right? So it's hard for me to keep these things teased apart. But what I want to say is, number one, thank you to everybody who watches some of the videos, likes or subscribes or comments, mentions it to a friend in a rental car, whatever. All of that, I think it helps. I mean, we are the tiny Rebel Alliance here. We're still at the hundreds of views level on these stuff over on the Dave Ackley channel. Look at some videos that are up at the thousands of views, but it's this particular thing, going for the new stuff, the stuff that I think is important, that has kind of just been sitting there for decades, really, and not getting the attention that it needs to get. We're giving it more attention, and people want to know how to help. I mean, every so often, I mean, sometimes people even like send a resume, and they're looking to volunteer, and oh my gosh, thank you. I can't really be a manager at this time, because I was never all that good at it when I did it in academia. And, my plate is kind of full. So I need folks that are being interested and are running on parallel tracks, and we can run along a bit with it. Certainly, if anybody is in, the programmer end of things and can actually get in and hack Ulam code, the specific language for the mobile feast machine, that's super wonderful. But, even folks who are doing what I consider to be modern cellular automata, that's great too. Modern meaning asynchronous. I call it ACID because Lou talked about what he was doing as Game of Life on acid, which is not a bad way to look at it, because a lot of people know about Game of Life, but it's very very buttoned down, very deterministic, and so forth. And finally, mainly, the thing that is the most helpful is, if you get it, say it. If you get the ideas, if you get what we're trying to do, if you get even corners of it, say it to other folks in your own words, and that will improve the robustness and the depth of machine implementations that we have, because everybody's going to see it slightly differently, and we build it that way. So again, I just wanted to say thanks. Okay, mind expansion. As a reminder, the goal for the rest of the year, which is going fast, there's only 4 more months and we're taking one off, in 2024, implement all 4 self-image processes on the T2 matrix, with the result that BV has improved abilities. And so once again, this was also from last time, the self-image has, input, output. It has sequential processing. I can't really go around there because of mirror image. And it's got judgment good, judgment bad, input, output, sequence, and judge, like that. And the goal for this time was to do sequencing, so that even if the world didn't change at all, BV could do different things. Now, BV already has the ability to do that, but it's fundamentally just based on random numbers and counting. I was hoping that we could get to some sequence that was a little bit more informed, but didn't get to it because, we had this issue can't spend too much time here, that, in the very center tile of this thing, which, in the indefinite scalability, there is no center tile. But in this case, where we have a spine, a cable that's connecting to a particular spot on the grid, that breaks the symmetry. So the signals that go in and out of that cable are the signals that go in and out of that spine, and we have to just deal with that. And, so we have a crossbar right there that does a bunch of stuff, and that, solves the task, the basic task that BV is posed pretty well. But if we're going to do bigger things, sequence, judgment, all that kind of stuff, we need much more real estate. And that means we need not just intra-crossbar from inputs to outputs, but inter-crossbar design. Let's take a look at another little bit of BV and then talk about it. Well, of course, BV wanted to know what the new yellow BV window was about, and Seneca explained that there were 4 new grid darkness sensors, 1 in each corner of BV's body. But I don't see these sensors, said BV. That's because they're on the bottom of your body looking down, said Seneca. I used to be able to see my bottom, said BV. Now, that was a long time ago, said Seneca. So, how come I can't use my new sensors, asked BV. Well, that's a little involved, said Seneca. Maybe we need a developer to explain. Ooh, said BV. So the developer insisted on speaking to Seneca, but BV got to listen in. So, said the developer, the new gray sensors are wired into BV's brain. You can see them just to the left of the hotbox. Here, I've highlighted them for you, okay? The problem is that there was no way for that outboard crossbar to communicate with the main crossbar in the hotbox. The architect was spending weeks doing who knows what, so we just went ahead and repurposed the swap worms from the last quarter attempts and made them into axons that carry signals. So now we have a point-to-point signal carrying mechanism, but we have this second problem. How do we get the axons to grow between signal sources and destinations? Because they might be quite far apart. And what we did was we invented flood find, which spreads in all directions out to a limit until it finds its target. And then it dies back to just a single path, usually a pretty direct one. And then the axon follows that path to hook up. And it works great. And soon, not yet, we're going to make BV be able to take advantage of the new gray sensors. So that's it. So we have a method. I mean, it's kind of hacky, but I actually really sort of like that. I really liked the swap worms before. These axons to carry signals and arbitrary things, and this flood find, which is fun to watch. My belief is that they will allow us to do what I was trying to do this time. So that's it for today. The challenge for next time, September. Onward essay accepted. And the beautiful aspect of that is that I have nothing to do with that now. We've sent it in. We'll find out before we get to visit again. And the main goal is that BV localizes itself, that it actually figures out where it is relative to the edges of the grid and does something with that information. We shall see. And that is it. Thanks so much for stopping in. All right. So the plan here, I had some more stuff to say, which I will say, I'll stick it in the live stream. We'll have a little bit of a chat if anybody's hanging around. But I want to take a little 5-minute intermission here to get the render started. So that it can just get all through the pipeline a little quicker today. So I've got a very special behind-the-scenes look at me hard at work on the T2 tile project. And we'll take a look at that, and hopefully I'll be back before it's done. Morse gauge. think I just made it. Okay, so now we're going to have fan noise. You can hear it now because that is the thing, the update rendering at 4K. Anyway, let's check in on the. All right, and it was a quiet crowd today. Samter, thanks. Game of Life was a good starting point. Oh, is this? Does the chat thing work? All right. So like theoretically, we could we could have, if people were chatting. I was trying to get this working. One of the in the last month, Lou did this crazy live stream. Yeah, and so, all right. Well, let me. I mean, I guess, if any, let me just say a little bit more that I didn't have time for here, because the little bit of it was interesting. Yeah. So I looked at a bunch of different ways of connecting crossbars to each other. So a single crossbar takes a bunch of inputs and a bunch of outputs, and it allows you to do any to any. The way I have it implemented, it can do any to all and all to any as well. It doesn't have to be one to one. And in fact, that's already being used where signals from like the yellow sensors are sent both to the grip to determine what we should be doing overall, as well as to the motors to do the Breitenberg vehicle turning and so on. But in between crossbars there was nothing, and so one idea was to just put the crossbars next to each other so that there would just be a small physical spatial gap between the edge of this one and the edge of this one, and they'd be able to send some neurotransmitters, some little signal atoms across the gap to make the connection. And that's still good, and I still want to be able to do that, but I didn't want to have to do that. I didn't want to have to figure out how to tile everything so that it was all perfectly necessary to each other. Also, in order to do that, in the standard configuration where we were in the previous update, was the sensors were always horizontal across the top, and the motor, the outputs were always vertical across the west, horizontal across the north, and vertical across the west, so the signals would go down and then over. But if I was going to put another crossbar next to it, I would need to be able to rotate that so I could put the sensors, the inputs from this crossbar could be vertical, so they could line up to the outputs of another crossbar. So that's what auto symmetry detection intra-crossbar progress is all about. That was, took several weeks for not entirely good reasons. There was big fun as well. But now, basically, you can just string a bunch of sensors in any single vertical or horizontal direction and string a bunch of motors in a 90-degree direction from it. And then from that corner where the two of them meet, the meat of the crossbar will grow. And it will detect that this is the motor is on the south and the sensors are on the west, so it's this kind of flow and so on. And that's actually now working. It took an awful long time, although I was doing a little inadvertent robustness testing a week or so ago when I did my standard thing, which is to think the input focus was in Emacs and type Control X to do a Control X command, because Emacs has got millions of those. But actually, the focus was in the simulator, and Control X means X-rays. So I end up zapping the simulation with simulated X-rays. And in fact, it recovered from that really well. But since I kind of messed it up anyway, I started doing bigger things. I started dropping big nukes, big circles of emptiness plopping down. And it recovered from that as well, but it turned out that the auto symmetry detection had a bug, which I hadn't realized, because when it was growing from the BV brain seed, it always kind of happened in a certain order, but when it was regrowing after a giant hole got torn out of it, it regrew in a different order, and it got the symmetry detection wrong. So now I got to go back and work on that. And then the flood find was a whole lot of fun, and I really get a kick out of watching that. You know, you put it down, you tell it what kind of target it's looking for, and it goes and you know, there's all kinds of special cases, like what if it finds the same target two different ways, then it starts ending up having two paths coming back, and we really want to have one path, but we can't actually detect that until we're somewhere back in the beginning. In the limit, there might be two solutions completely opposite each other, and you might grow out to them, discover them both, and come all the way back to the root. And again, we only want to end up with one, but only the root could tell the difference in the limiting case. So that stuff is all working nicely. And I'm going to take some time to streamline the ability to say where we want the crossbars. Right now, that's all done painstakingly by setting coordinates in constant arrays inside Ulam. That I really want to have something a little more easy to use language for describing BV brains that will then compile into those constant arrays with some kind of script or something for me. That's something I'm looking forward to, make the world easier for myself. So that's the extra stuff that I wanted to talk about, and except for the fact that I'm trying to, the mostly is the fact that I discovered the symmetry detection doesn't necessarily always work. Sometimes that's enough. That's enough. And I have a bunch of other stuff to say about self-image and how to think it all through, but we might as well save that until next time at least, when we will know what is happening with the paper, with the Dialogues on Natural Code essay, which I think our odds are good, but don't want to jinx it. Okay, folks, thank you so much for stopping and hanging out a little bit. I guess I'll stop it at the bottom of the hour, and maybe the render will be done, and I can really be far too efficient. And so, and this was right. This was an example. Like, I'm going to use a thumbnail for this one that's very similar, not the same, but very similar to the thumbnail from last time. And I'm really curious. I'm assuming that YouTube's AI is not good enough to realize that it's almost the same, and it'll probably give it the same push it did last time with the goofy, not crazy arrow, and we shall see how it goes. All right. I guess that's it. So I will do another fade out, and then we'll end the stream. Hope things are going well with you. The United States is seeming hope. It feels good. Okay, that's it.